Alright, what's going on everyone? I got another Mass Effect video incoming for you, and today we're going to be talking about favorite squad mates within the entire trilogy. Nothing from Mass Effect Andromeda, just Mass Effects 1 through 3. Everyone has their favorite squad mate, their favorite person to romance, and over multiple playthroughs, you definitely learn more and more about who you like and who you don't like. Now, this video is mainly about squad mates and not squad mate romances because I'm pretty sure that list would look a little bit different than this one. Now, before we get into it, I will ask if this happens to be your favorite YouTube channel on the Citadel, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with more Mass Effect content and future content in general. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, as I like to usually do ranking videos, I'm gonna start with my least favorite squad mate and work my way up to my favorite squad mate. So, starting at 19, my least favorite in all of the Mass Effect trilogy is James Vega. Just another generic human soldier who holds no real importance within the world. The character development offered to his character is pointless compared to some of the Mass Effect 2 characters that could have been used and developed even further instead of him. They try to connect you with James by giving him a dialogue scene of him asking your Shepard advice on joining the N7 program. It felt like they were essentially trying to connect the dots by saying, hey, look, he's just like you, but a bit younger. There's only one Shepard, and plenty of other interesting squad mates in the trilogy that James is completely obsolete. I basically use James for the Mars mission and the Palaven mission because there's no way to get out of that, and then after those missions, I never use him again. Granted, if Bioware was originally given more time to make Mass Effect 3, that could have opened the door for Mass Effect 2 characters and the addition of James, which I wouldn't have complained, but overall, James is just a pointless character. At 18, I have Kaiden Alenko. So who really saves this guy on Virmire? Look, I'll tell you right now that Ashley is number 17. I think she's a touch better than Kaiden, even though I'm going to rip on her pretty heavy. But at least Ashley is memorable. I think Kaiden is the most forgettable and boring squad mate they ever created. Even VIs have more personality than him. I played one playthrough where I saved him instead of Ashley, and by the time Mass Effect 3 came around, his character doesn't change at all. Most human squad mates suffer with likability because the most interestingly written human character has to be Shepard, but I swear Kaiden doesn't even try. And just like I said, at 17, Ashley Williams. I mean, I think it is pretty simple. The four main words I would use to describe her character is rude, ignorant, disrespectful, and racist. In another timeline, Ashley Williams is the protagonist of the Mass Effect trilogy who actually joins the Reapers to murder every alien in the Milky Way galaxy while securing human dominance. She has no appreciation or respect of the races that came before humans and are frankly more intelligent than them. And don't get me started on how she continuously tries to blame and degrade Shepard for everything he does in Mass Effects 2 and 3. Sometimes you have to wonder how much more peaceful the Normandy and crew would have been if she just got evaporated by Sovereign's laser at the beginning of the first game. Thank God she's not in number 2. And even 2, the fact that the Council granted her Spectre status in Mass Effect 3 is beyond me. Probably just shows how desperate and short on manpower they were. Now, I know there is actually a decent amount of people who like Ashley, and I respect that. I will also say that even though I can't stand her character, at least she makes me feel emotions like rage, anger, and disgust. Alright, moving past her and on to number 16, I placed Zaid Masani. I appreciate the attempt on this character, and I do enjoy the idea that Zaid is basically Shepard if Shepard went down the road of mercenary life. I think it's cool that he founded the Blue Suns, but the issue there is we never know anything more than that, and we don't even get to finish his revenge line against the man who kicked him out of his own merc gang. I feel until Bioware released his DLC back when Mass Effect 2 originally came out and said, oh yeah, here's another character to use. He also suffers from the fact that if you play Soldier Shepherd, Zaid's powers, weapons, and abilities are completely obsolete since you can do what he can do and much more. I never take him on important missions because there are plenty of other squad mates who have better input than him, and at the end of the day, he just wants to be paid and move on. That's the type of character he is. I think his backstory is somewhat interesting, but we barely get to know what that is other than a couple of stories he tells you when you go to his quarters on the Normandy. Also too, his Mass Effect 3 appearance is pathetic. At 15, I placed Jacob Taylor. For years, I couldn't understand why people disliked his character so much, but the older I got, I finally understood. He's not awful, say like an Ashley, but he is similar to a bland character like Kaiden. A very vanilla character who works for a group that he in his heart knows is wrong and makes you feel like he might be the one guy you can trust amongst a team of unknowns. That is until you recruit Garrus and Tali, your best friends. Or how about Miranda, who is more than a Cerberus drone and actually has a lovely personality and backstory? Or how about Thane, the most trustworthy assassin in the galaxy and became a bro to Shepard so much easier than Jacob did. Also, the amount of hypocrisy in his dialogue scenes. I don't like the Alliance, there's so much regulations and politics. But then all of a sudden, I don't trust Cerberus and the Elusive Man, there's too many secrets. Make up your mind, bro. I did, and that's why you fall to 15. At 14, I placed Kasumi. So I actually really like Kasumi, and I like what the character has to offer. The reason she falls so low is because you don't get to learn about her character as much as others. In some ways, she also suffers from the same thing Zaid did. Hey, here's another random squad mate for you. I do enjoy her lighthearted personality and the brief connection you gain with her in her loyalty mission, but other than the small amount of dialogue she offers in her quarters on the Normandy, her Mass Effect 3 appearance is awful. The mission feels like Bioware literally forgot about her 2 weeks before the game was released, so they had to throw something together. She was a character with a lot of potential, but was sadly wasted. At 13, I put Grunt. He's basically Baby Rex. Since the Krogan have been plagued with the genophage for centuries, they have constantly tried to find loopholes around it. Grunt happens to be that loophole. Though tank bred, it's ironic how he happens to be the perfect Krogan. Something that is deemed so unnatural ends up creating something natural. It's a good time to watch him grow within a matter of weeks, and taking down a Threshermon, his loyalty mission is great. He starts off as a Krogan who doesn't have a place in life, but manages to find not one family, but 2 families amongst the Urdnot clan and the Normandy. At 12, I placed Samara. As a Justicar, they did a great job of showing how biotically superior and feared she is. She's a little different in the sense of someone like Jack, who is sporadically powerful, whereas Samara is much more disciplined and refined in her abilities. Being 600 years old, if not older, her dialogue offers a lot of knowledge into her past life and the long history she has with all types of experiences. Also, the connection to the deadly Ardot Yakshi that Samara has just shows what type of threats she has faced and how powerful she has to be. I think the Justicar code is what drops her a little lower on the list because of how narrow-sighted she can feel sometimes. But if Bioware really wanted to, they could make an entire game about Samara due to how much her character has done with her life. At 11, I placed Javik. I really wanted Javik to be higher because of how awesome it is to have a 50,000-year-old Prothean on the team. Even though he is much different than the Normandy crew expects, very calculating, hardcore, show no mercy type of personality, he still offers so much when it comes to the unknown history of the Protheans and the Reapers. It makes you want to know so much more about what the galaxy looked like during his time and what other aliens existed during the Prothean Empire. The reason he's not in my top 10 is because there are so many characters that deserve a top 10 spot and have had multiple games of development. If Javik had another game appearance, he would more than likely be higher. Also, the fact that Javik was originally a DLC when Mass Effect 3 first came out was not a good decision. He should have been base game content. Moving into the top 10 now. At 10, I placed Jack. I know having her at 10 sounds low, but these upcoming characters I like so much that it was so hard to rank them, and she did unfortunately fall at 10, but 10 is not a bad thing. Subject Zero is not only awesome because of her unreal amount of biotic power, but her character growth is so well done. When you first meet her, she is an unruly biotic monster. You could see why people were terrified of her and how notoriously dangerous she is. I think the fact that you can break through her hard, cold-blooded exterior to a fragile and soft-hearted interior is a great character development. And in Mass Effect 3, it really shows how much Shepard influenced a change on Jack and how she cares for others instead of just looking out for herself. At 9, I placed Edie. I do believe that Edie has one of the best character growths out of all the characters in the game. Plus, the voice actress Trisha Helfer has experience with robot and AI characters due to her time in Battlestar Galactica, and she's Canadian, so that's a bonus. The change her character makes from an AI interface to a lifelike or nearly living being that you can take on missions with you is nearly seamless, and it makes a lot of sense. If Edie can be a useful war set within the ship, why not be one on the ground with Shepard as well? Edie has spent her entire life around the company of humans, and I believe that helped her make the choice to alter her AI capabilities to become more humanized. She even entered a relationship with Joker during Mass Effect 3 because of how much she admired human attributes. Edie is just a couple of blood-functioning organs away from becoming a true human, and with the technology in the Mass Effect world, who's to say it's not possible? Maybe there's a way her technology could become so advanced she wouldn't need a bicentennial man type of procedure. Maybe she could create her own synthetic version of human biology. This is all crazy what ifs, of course, but that is the interest of Edie's character, constantly wondering what she's capable of and what she'll do next. So at 8, I placed Legion, and the reason why I have Legion one spot higher than Edie is because I think what separates them is we all knew that Edie's human or natural type of personality and human attributes were going to eventually come out, whereas with Legion, I don't think many of us expected that because he is a Geth at the end of the day. I'll never forget how much I liked Legion when I got him in the squad in Mass Effect 2, and because I'm a PlayStation owner, I didn't play Mass Effect 1 until after multiple Mass Effect 2 playthroughs, and that's when I finally understood how cool it was to have an enemy on the team. Now, Legion is not an enemy, but in the eyes of the wider galaxy, the Geth are one of the most, if not the most dangerous beings in the Milky Way. Even though he's an AI that only thinks in zeros and ones, he slowly develops a consciousness, just like a true living being would. The galaxy may have made them out to be villains, but in Mass Effect 3, Legion shows just how misunderstood they are. They only react in violence because that's how everyone else reacts to them, even showing a friendship grow between Tali and himself, species who are supposed to be sworn enemies. Legion takes the final plunge and sacrifices his own life to give all Geth true consciousness, a sacrifice that mirrors the types of actions Shepard takes and will take at the end of the game. Shepard is Legion's role model and shows that not just with his N7 chess piece, but in his actions. At 7, I placed Rex, a true Krogan badass. The first time you ever see Rex is the moment you realize that he has seen things and been through things people won't ever go through in their life. What makes Rex interesting too is the fact that he thinks much different than typical Krogan, who think that war and death is the only way of life. Rex truly wants something greater for his people, and what he wants is a bright and prosperous future, the way it was before the Rachni War and the Krogan rebellions. Uniting the Krogan clans to not only cure the genophage with Shepard, but to fight a common galaxy-wide enemy in the Reapers is something that most, if not all, other Krogan leaders wouldn't have been able to do because of how hard-headed and stubborn they are. Rex had the mind and leadership of a true Krogan and could see more from his people than the mercenary life they decided to take. His biggest downfall, however, is that he was shafted as a squadmate in Mass Effects 2 and 3. Good thing for Rex is that he is such a memorable character. At 6, I placed Morden Solas. He is by far the best scientist in all of Mass Effect because without him, someone else might have gotten it wrong. In Mass Effect 2, he is really set up to be the game changer against the Collectors. Without him, there is no defense against the Seeker Swarms, which means there's a very high chance of not defeating the Collectors at all. At first glance, you think he's a crazy scientist with an ex-Salarian task group history, which would mean he makes decisions for what he thinks is the greater good, regardless of how many people he has to kill or any hard choice he may have to make. Once you get to know his character, however, he can be just as reasonable or understanding, almost like Shepard. You can also build connections with Morden in the fact that his genophage work left him scarred. Although it was a mission he knew he had to execute, that doesn't mean that some of his choices won't leave him sleepless at night, just the way some of Shepard's choices have left him feeling. Morden's great character arc is ended with him correcting the wrong that his people committed to the Krogan, and he died knowing the galaxy would have a better chance against the Reapers. Moving into the top 5, at 5, I placed Thane Krios, the most honorable assassin to ever exist. Like I mentioned when talking about Jacob Taylor earlier, Thane became a bro to Shepard so quickly. The way Shepard connects to Garrus is almost how strong Shepard and Thane's friendship became. Thane spent most of his life alone. He made a lot of mistakes when it came to caring for his wife and his son Kolyat. He never had anyone to talk to about his issues, and by his own rules, separated his soul from his body and spent his time taking the life of lawless criminals. Now that Thane is slowly dying, his regret grows. So not only does Thane have to right the wrongs with his son, he needs to deal with the suicide mission at the end of Mass Effect 2, knowing that the chances of return are slim to none. But Thane is smart enough to realize that the fate of the galaxy is on the line and chooses to have Shepard's back, stating, "My gun is yours." Thane is a very sacrificial character, and with the amount of people he has slain in his life, it's only appropriate that he sacrifices himself for the greater good, helping Shepard save the Council against Kai Lang and Cerberus. The best thing about his sacrifice is that it was not premature. He made up for his wrongdoing with his son, he assisted in saving the galaxy against the Collectors and the Reapers, and he gained a good friend in Shepard. At number 4, I have Miranda Lawson, and I can tell you right now, sometimes I have her higher, like 3 or 2, but right now I feel she is stable at 4. She is the perfect right-hand woman. Whenever something needs to be done, you know you can count on her. It's a great character development when you have someone like Miranda, who is a Cerberus poster girl, transition into someone who speaks out and cuts ties with a cult-like organization. In Mass Effect 2, it's hard to know if you'll even be able to connect to a character like Miranda, but as the game continues, you learn that she has something to care for, which is her sister. Even though she is genetically engineered to be perfect, she's still human. But she tries to view emotion as something that makes her imperfect. She is similar to Jack in the sense that she is a hardened and focused woman on the outside, but inside, she's a little softy. Shepard helps her realize that feelings and emotions are simply being human, and you shouldn't run from something so natural. When Miranda learns to embrace her emotions, she learns to love, and I would argue that she loves harder than most characters in the game. Even romancing her, you can tell that her feelings feelings for Shepard are completely organic and there's nothing superficial about it. And P.S. I love Yvonne Strahovski, who models and voices the character, and it makes me love this character so much more. Alright, now into the top 3. At number 3, I have Liara T'Soni, the Prothean expert turned shadow broker. So you can definitely start to assume who the next 2 characters are going to be. There's no denial that Liara has had the most character development compared to most, if not all, Squadmates, and she is technically the romance that Bioware tried to push on all of us. From small beginnings as an archaeologist to information broker, Liara went from shy and timid to powerful and feared. If you romance Liara, I know the relationship takes a little bit of a dip in the second game because of how unimportant it almost seems you become to her, and sometimes you make the decision with your Shepard to move on. But besides the romance, there's no question that Shepard wouldn't have been able to defeat the Reapers or understand certain Prothean devices without her help. Liara is very focused and research driven throughout all 3 games. But her relationship with Shepard, even if it's not a romance, is a very symbiotic friendship. No matter what, Liara and Shepard are meant to be close, and for good reason. Alright, and at number 2, I put Tali Zora. At this point, you all know who number 1 is going to be. But the reason why Tali is up at number 2 is because she is one of the 2 characters who is actually by Shepard's side throughout the entire series. Even though in Mass Effect 3 she enters the fold a little later, she still plays a major role in the story though. Having her in all 3 games and as a squadmate in each of them really gave Bioware the time to develop her character as much as possible. You learn so many interesting things from her about the Quarian people, like why they live on starships, the war with the Geth, what a pilgrimage is. All of that makes you appreciate how the Quarian people were written and just how independent Tali is. The great thing about her character is that you're capable of showing her that she doesn't need to always be alone. Shepard and the Normandy crew become her family, and that's why she ends up taking the full name Tali Zora Vos Normandy. Whether or not you romance Tali, there is no question about it. She is absolutely one of Shepard's best friends. Someone like her who partakes in the overall mission every single game deserves a spot in the top 3. Alright, and moving in at the number 1 spot, we have Garrus Vicarion. As you suspected, the notorious criminal killer and absolute homie to Shepard, Archangel. Everyone usually has an all-time best friend, and Garrus and Shepard share that type of friendship. There is not one mission Shepard would go on that Garrus would say, "No, I can't join you." No matter what Garrus could be occupied with, he would find a way to drop it or finish it just to join up with Shepard. Even the line Shepard says to Garrus during the last mission of Mass Effect 3, "There's no Shepard without Vicarion," this line just sums up exactly what these 2 characters mean to one another. Every time I play this game, I can't help but bring Garrus on every important mission. And usually, not all the time, but usually, I like to leave Tali alone and romance someone else so that the homie Garrus can get a romance in as well. Because for those who don't know, just before you embark on the final mission, Garrus and Tali get together on the Normandy. Garrus got to get his too, you know what I'm saying? I could go on with how great of a friendship they have, but you get the point. Alright, so there you have it. That is my list of squadmates from 1 to 19, or 19 to 1, however you want to look at it. But guys, that is it for this video. I am very curious to know who your favorite squadmates are, and even if you don't want to go through the top 19, maybe just give me your top 5 or your top 10. Shoot them down in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Alright guys, but until next time,
I should go.